let's get to the NFC West, which we're going to start off with Kev's team, the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, the most interesting team in this division, as Dylan has thankfully given us a visual of right there. Let's start off with the Seattle Seahawks, Kev.
Well, here's
16-0.
No, look.
Come on, guys. Only 15-1. They'll rest their starters in week 17.
Right. Yeah. Here's the good of this team is their defense is back. I think that they brought in a lot of depth, specifically on defense, that I think is going to help. I think the draft, although not intentionally, was to help their secondary.
It was brutal.
Which they're what? What's brutal about that secondary?
No, their draft was brutal.
Well, their one pick could be brutal, but I think others are turning out okay so far. I think that they did a lot of 1-year gambles, like on Luke Jokel and Eddie Lacy. Here's the ultimate concern when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks is the offensive line. And is it going to be better? I mean, Luke Jokel is an upgrade, but is it enough of an upgrade? And we don't know. The running back situation is interesting. Eddie Lacy has not had a great camp. Chris Carson is making noise. Thomas Rawls is doing okay. The other question with this team is Jimmy Graham, and ultimately the biggest question on this team comes down to Richard Sherman, and is he going to be ultimately a distraction? And what's going to happen in that goal line stand when the Seahawks don't get in? Is Sherman going to blow up at Darrell Bevel again? There's just a lot of intriguing questions that, if I would argue, and this is the jersey this is the shirt I'm wearing. So you got to hear me out here when I say this. If this was an NFC East team, this would be an 8-8 team. But they're fortunately in a division where they have an easier schedule. They have a talented quarterback, and they can be bad while being okay at the same time. So I have them at 11-5 this year. I have them winning the NFC West, and I have them as the 3rd seed. But you cannot have your number one rushing running back on the practice roster of another team. You can't do that. You can't have a basketball player playing left tackle. So there's a number of things that have to improve on this team for them to get into the Super Bowl. I don't see it right now. I'm sorry. I'm wearing the shirt, but I don't see it. I think they need some good production from their receivers as well. So the offense concerns me. Their defense is enough to keep them in games, but there's too many questions to have the Seattle Seahawks as a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. And I'm wearing the shirt. So there you go.
This division bores the hell out of me. I think it's the worst division in the league. No offense to you, sure, Kev. You know what? This is funny. I'm going to bring this up. The rest of these 3 teams will combine to win as many games as the Seattle Seahawks. It's pretty fucking impressive. I have the Seahawks at 11-5. It's awful. This is an awful division. If I have to leave at 6:40 in 8 minutes, I'm just going to put out all my thoughts right now. Seattle is they're going to win 11 games because of their schedule.
But no, we're talking about the schedule. Have you seen their 8 non-division games? They are easy. That's not so easy, man.
I think they'll win 5.
They got Packers, Titans, Colts. There's not like easy ones. Like playing the Jacksonville Jaguars is easy, which they
Colts,
do.
Jags,
yeah, but Colts,
easy.
Giants, Texans, even Redskins, Falcons, Eagles, Cowboys. That's probably one of the hardest non-division schedules we've seen in the NFC East so far. Me just looking at each schedule, that's the hardest outside division schedule.
I think they win 5. I think they'll win 5 of those 8 games. I'm just putting it there. I think 5 and 3. I think this team is incredibly boring. I think the rest of the teams are incredibly boring as well. But my thing here with Seattle is that they can do some things good. Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. I even predicted him to be a bounce-back year for the quarterbacks. You can check that video out, cheap plug. But with the rest of this division being so bad, I cannot see them. There's no way this team's not winning the division. The most wins another team is getting in this division is 6. 6. So I'm just putting that out there. I will give them my rest of the records if I have to before I go off there.
Okay, I'm going 10-6. They win their division. Obviously, they don't get at first. Like when I look at the schedule, I'm like, that's actually pretty tough. And you know what? It's going to come down. They're going to beat the Cardinals on week 17 because they're both the Cardinals, and I think the Cardinals might be around. It depending on what happens, but I think the Cardinals and Seahawks are around tied that point. So that game's going to be the division winner week 17, which is going to be exciting. But I got them 10-6. Maybe 9-7. I just think those stretches, like when we look at other non-division,
I think a lot of
games,
Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of their tough games are at home.
We haven't talked about the Titans, but I don't think that's like necessarily easy. You know what I mean?
That's not
week 3.
No, it isn't. But I think a lot of their tough games are at home.
Yeah, Colts on the road of Giants, Texans are at home, Redskins are at home, Eagles are at home, on the road Cowboys. And Falcons at home as well. But I'm just saying, like, look at those teams, right? Like, that's
they'll beat a lot of those teams, to be honest with you. I think I'm the highest on the Seahawks of anyone here.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm 10-6, and I think it's going to come down to week 17, or the other teams are going to be so shitty it's not going to matter. But I think they can. I think they only go 4-4 in those games, and then they lose 2 games in their division.
Okay, for me,
well,
I have
one other thing. I think a really important thing that I'm intrigued about as well as Earl Thomas, because he's coming back from a major injury. He is when he was playing, he was the best free safety in the game. You can argue Landon Collins passed him. I'm not going to say he's not.
Landon Collins is a strong safety, so I'll give you the free safety argument.
Yeah, but in terms of safeties, Earl Thomas is the glue of the Legion of Boom. And him coming back, I think, and being healthy is going to be a really key, important part of the season. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm the highest on the Seahawks here, even though I had them at 11-5 in the regular season. But I think, and I look at this team, and I think they're one of the more complete teams in the NFL. I think there's a lot of flawed teams in the NFL, but the Seahawks are flawed, and it's really in one area more than anything is the offensive line. But I think the offensive line, they have mostly the same starters from last year. They did add a couple pieces. I just think in general, they'll be a little bit better because last year, Russell Wilson, you guys forget, the guy was banged up all year long. And they still made the playoffs. They still won the division in what maybe people would consider a tougher division last year. I don't know. But Russell Wilson is going to be back. I think he's going to have one of his best seasons ever. Fan of Doug Baldwin, fan of the weapons that they have. I think, guys like Paul Richardson could break out. I think Tyler Lockett maybe be able to break out this year. They still have Curse. So they still have some weapons and they still have familiarity with Russell Wilson. I think this team is just too I look at the Seahawks and I feel safe saying Seahawks are in this. The Seahawks are in the playoffs. Like I look at them, they're in the playoffs. And their running back situation, I think, got better. I think their run game is going to be better, which is going to balance their offense out. Yes, they don't have a pure number one runner, but Thomas Rawls apparently is leading them in the camp. Apparently, he's their number one running back right now. But they're going to split time with Eddie Lacy. I'm a fan of CJ Procise on third down and as a pass catching back. I think their offense is going to be better, mostly due to the fact that they're going to have healthy Russell Wilson. And when you have healthy Russell Wilson, doesn't matter how bad your offense line is, he'll run around and he'll make plays. Defensively, I think, like Kev said, they're going to be healthy, and that's going to help. Do I think they're one of the best defensive units they've had in past 4 years? No, I think they're probably about the same as last year, but when they were healthy. I think their corners are not very good outside of Richard Sherman, so if they do lose Richard Sherman, they're in trouble. Their safeties are great, maybe the best pair in the league still. Their linebackers, very good. Their D-line, Michael Bennett did play a lot of the year last year. We forgot about that. Cliff Avrill's a 10-plus sack guy every year. I think this is a team that everybody kind of is just we're saying Seahawks, because they're so regular in the playoff conversation, we're at the point where we're like, nah, Seahawks aren't really that good anymore. But they are still good, and they're still a team that can make an impact in the playoffs. So I have them at 11-5 winning the division.
I just think three of us being in BC, we see them a lot, and we see them playing against this NFC West a lot for the last 4 years.
I understand.
And
I don't like the Seahawks.
I feel like it puts – no, I know you're not like a fan, but I still put something on these running backs and these receivers that makes them people think they're a bit better than they actually are.
And I actually think this is going to be Jimmy Graham's best season since leaving the Saints.
But besides Jimmy Graham is going to be the best tight end on any team and be a great player. I'm just saying, Baldwin, yes, but Jermaine Kearse, Paul Richardson, are they even that good? Is Thomas Rawls even that good?
They even when they were good, they didn't need those options. They have Jimmy Graham. They have Doug Baldwin. They're top two guys. CJ Prosise going to contribute. And then maybe Lockett, Richardson, Kearse, add a few plays here and there. I think their offense is going to be better than it was last year.
I think one of the things that the Seahawks need to get back to is turnovers. And because that defense was great, they were creating turnovers. They found ways to score points other than offense on special teams, on defense. And they need to get that back into their game a lot more than they did before. I'm concerned about the right corner. I'm concerned about who's going to fill that position. I'm actually quite concerned about Cam Chancellor. He hasn't been healthy the last couple of years since his holdout. I'm not sure he's the same guy that he was. And this is a guy I watch regularly. So, I mean, the thing with you're right. Russell Wilson, if he's healthy, can make plays. But if this offensive line isn't intact, does Russell Wilson's hurt again? And where do you go? Right? That's the. I mean, it's good that we're in a.
Should go to Colin Kaepernick, but that's a different conversation.
Right, but the thing, I think it's fortunate that we're in a division where the other three teams are god awful. And we can transition in a nice way.
But Kev,
I think
you're a fan of the Seahawks. I appreciate you for being honest. But the other top teams in the NFC, we've talked about them and their flaws. The Giants, okay? Is Eli going to be good? Is their offensive line going to block like the Seahawks? The Packers, their defense is trash. Okay, they don't really have a running back. They lost offensive linemen. You look at what is the different? The Falcons. Maybe there's a down year this year. Their offense. They lost Kyle Shanahan. There's a lot of question marks for a lot of these teams. What makes the Seahawks different than any of the other top teams in the NFC? Is my exact point. They're all flawed in a way.
Like why you? Yeah, sure. Sure. I don't disagree with that. But to me, I don't, not at all. But I think that there's things that they need to get back to make the Seahawks what the Seahawks were in 13 and 14.
My opinion is that's the thing. It's they're complete, but they're not that team. You don't just go back to being that team. You retool.
But you can
the Patriots from to 05 was somewhat different from that 07, and then the team we're seeing now is different than that 07 team plus that 01 to 05 team, right? You have to retool. You don't get those, the Patriots did it in a great way, but the Seahawks are in a thing. Now they got to find that same identity. Their defense will never be as good and cause as much turnovers and chaos as it just did, right? They're never going to have that running. Hopefully they do, but they're never going to have Marshawn Lynch running and that offensive line they had later. They have to retool, and I'm just saying that I think a lot we compare them, but they're just not that team. They're still a great complete team, but they're not a team that I don't think wows you as much as that team did a couple of years ago. And you're just never going to get back to that. So it's that's what I'm thinking.
I think you can get back to it. I just think it may not be this year, but I think with a couple of drafts you can start retooling that slowly. I don't think the Seahawks are doomed. I don't think they're dead. I think they're a playoff team. I think that they can compete for the NFC Championship. I think they can give the Bucs a good run. Can they get to the Super Bowl? Well, that's who they would face, I think. I have them as
No, that's fair, but I'm just saying, wow, we're discounting the Seahawks, but we're already assuming the Bucs are in the NFC Championship. I mean,
bro, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think there's going to be other teams because of their schedules that are going to be higher up. So Seahawks, if anything, is only going to get one home game, and we've seen the Seahawks need to play at home, right? So they need to go 13-3. They need to go 12-4. You know what I mean?
Listen, and if you don't
need home games to win.
Sure.
Okay, guys. Let's get Dylan's fill in for the 49ers and the Cardinals and the Rams.
Because then I'm going to leave and I'll be out. 49ers, Rams, Cardinals. I think they'll combine to win 11 games. Combined. Cardinals, I think Cardinals will go 6-10. I don't think they will go 3-13 like Mr. Kebble's ridiculous claim earlier in the offseason. I know he's not going to say that now, but I'm just putting that out there. That was the claim. I think they're not as great. I think they're going to fall into the same trap that they did last year, where they're going to be somewhat good on defense with good players like Tyrann Mathieu and the sorts. But I don't think I think they're just going to be stuck in this rut. I don't exactly know where they're going, and I think they're kind of lost in this direction in terms of the NFC. I think they're the second best team in their division, but that doesn't say much. San Francisco thinks going to go 3-13. I think there's no hope right now for this team. They did get, Shanahan and whatnot. They have key things that they want to do, unquote, but I don't think they're going to do very much in this year. I'm going to tell you right now, 3-13 is at best, and the worst record in the NFC goes to the Los Angeles Rams, 2-14.
Whoa.
I think they are awful. I think Goff is awful. I think this team is awful. Thank God Fisher is gone. I applaud them for that, but they will not get better. They will not win that one game against the Seahawks because Fisher was planning so many times to win that game, and now that they don't have that, they will not win that game. They're just not very good. They don't have very many pieces. I think they can win. They can win in some departments, but I think they will go 2-14. Arizona 6-10, San Francisco 3-13, LA 2-14. This is the sleeper division on the negative side. All right, boys. I will see you next time for the next video.
Okay. So let's move on from our Seahawks conversation onto the Arizona Cardinals, which I feel like is going to be the team that we are going to disagree the most about. I think the Cardinals are on the borderline of being a playoff team this year. I think they will somewhat bounce back from what was last year. But even when you look at their record and the way they were competitive last year, they seemed worse than they actually were last year. And I think they have the best running back in the league. That's just my opinion. He's a freaking machine. Unless he gets hurt, this team is going to be competitive because David Johnson is a running back and a receiver, and he is an MVP candidate every time he touches the field. Carson Palmer, yes, question marks. But I think he'll have a bounce-back season this year. Larry Fitzgerald's still Larry Fitzgerald. He led the league in receptions last year, and I think he'll have a similar season this year. Maybe not quite that good, but good. The question is, can they get a second target in that offense other than their running back? Can John Brown be healthy, and can he stretch the field like he did in 2015 when this team was so successful? He had 1,000 yards in that season. That's a big question. If they can do that, they could be a playoff team. If they can't do that, which I don't know if they quite will have that, I think they'll have that in spurts, but I don't think they'll have that consistently. I just don't see this offense having enough weapons outside of David Johnson and an older Larry Fitzgerald to really get it done and really push and really score enough points. This defense is really, really talented. Their linebacker core is extremely good. They have like 6 linebackers deep. They have 2 10-plus sack guys. They added a freak in the draft. They added Carlos Dansby back for leadership. Tyrann Mathieu is back, which makes this team a whole different team. Patrick Peterson's arguably the best corner in the league. This is a very talented team. I just think they have too much talent to not be at least win 7 games. I have them at 9 games. And I think they're going to push the Seahawks for the division till the very end. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I have them. Could go 10-6. But they do play similar type of schedule, so they do have somewhat of a tough division schedule. I do think they push the Seahawks, and it's going to come down to that final game. I'll still give that final game to the Seahawks, but I got them at 9-7. If you look at this team, they had a lot of injuries last season and still were 7-8-1 with injuries and not even playing, and with subpar Carson Palmer playing. If you look in 2015, I think they go back to that 2015 season. Obviously, they've lost a couple targets from that, offensive targets, but their defense is as good, if not better, than that year, I believe. Maybe that other corner, because I think their
biggest weakness on their defense is the second corner.
Yes, but I think who they got there right now, I have the depth chart. They got Justin Bethel or Tramon Williams or Harlan Miller or Brandon Williams.
Yeah.
And then they got Javon Branch, who's a little older, but they have him slotted as the nickel.
They got Buda Baker. They got like 4 or 5 safeties deep.
Yeah, so Antoine Bethea is back, right? That was this year as he came back? Or was that last year? Yeah, they got Bethea back from San Fran this year. I just think their defense is so good, plus David Johnson, plus Larry, and like one of these guys. We've seen spurts from J.J. Nelson and John Brown, even Jerron Brown. We've seen spurts, right? Obviously, a guy that might make the team, Aaron Dobson, they got from San Fran, who's, we'll see. I just think that this team on paper, especially having the down year last year, a down year that was 7-8-1. If they win that tie, if they win that stupid game that everyone watched,
the
Seahawks are 10-6 and they're 8-8, right? Like just like that. So that's why I think the Cardinals push it. I think that Week 17 game is going to be the division. I think the second place doesn't make the playoffs, and that's what it's going to come down to. But I do like the Cardinals. It's going to be on Carson Palmer, but I think they go back. Their defense is going to be even better than it was in 2015. I do think they have a tough schedule, but I do think, like you said, David Johnson is going to have a really good year, and I think they're going to find one secondary or second to third receiver step up enough this season.
Here we go.
I'm going to be safe here. I'm going to say 6-10. And David Johnson should be your first pick of your fantasy draft, no question about it. There's a lot of names and talent on this defense that could excite you. It's when they play the Seahawks, they seem to come together. When they play other teams, they're complete. They don't do anything. And I'm just going to say it. This is the weakness of the Arizona Cardinals. Bruce Arians is a terrible, god-awful, awful coach. He treats his players like garbage, especially in the media. He does it. He blasts David Johnson for not getting 1,000 yards receiving. He blasts his kicker in the media. He blasted receivers in the media today. He's just a complete mess, and they're not going anywhere with this head coach. That is the biggest problem with the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think their quarterback is great.
What?
I think Bruce Arians is a terrible head coach.
Have you not seen his football life? His football life made me a fan of Bruce Arians.
Can I list his accomplishments?
It's pretty nuts.
Look at the crap that
he is a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year. He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion as a coordinator. He is a 3-time AFC champion. He is a record as a head coach of 46-23-1.
And who did he learn coaching from? Alabama's, what's the guy's name? Alabama's longtime coach with the hat or whatever. What's that guy's name? Anyways, he's been.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but I just think right now, when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, I just look at this. I don't think they're tuned into Bruce Arians. I think they need a change. If there was a coaching change, I would actually concede someone else in there putting this talent together and putting this team in a competitive
There's not going to be a
place.
coaching change anytime soon. Do you know why?
Well, because they're dumb.
Because this team, with Bruce Arians as a coach, 2013, 10-6, 2014, 11-5, 2015, 13-3. 2016, 7-8-1.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I think I look at this team and I look at that as the big problem. I think the receivers are very weak. I'm not a Carson Palmer fan. I think Carson Palmer's okay. They're going to rely a lot on David Johnson. I see 6 wins. I think they try to fight the Seahawks because they're always pumped up to play the Seahawks, but they'll play a team like the Texans and the Titans, and those teams will blow them out. I'm sorry. I don't see why the Arizona Cardinals are this sexy team that people love. I don't.
Because their defense, man.
I see a lot of mess.
Because their defense. And that's what I'm saying is if you say you're still going to take David Johnson number 1, if I thought the Cardinals were going 6-10 with that defense, I would not take David Johnson first overall. If that's your thinking, and you still would take David Johnson,
Take Le'Veon.
I don't know. I have them as 6-10. I think they're a mouthy team that think that they're better than they actually are.
Okay.
I think you could say the same for the Seahawks.
We are a mouthy team, but we backed it up with a ring or 2.
Well, one.
Arizona has
one
a
ring.
Yeah, why would you say ring or 2?
More than Arizona.
Hey, can I solve this for you, Kev? How many rings does Tom Brady have?
More than us.
5. How many when he gets Seahawks? 1. Okay, so the Seahawks don't have 2 Super Bowl wins. Okay, there we go.
And what you say with Arian's demeanor, it's kind of opposite, but like you could say the same with Carroll. A lot of people don't like how Carroll acts to the media.
Listen, I honestly will tell you, I think Carroll's 2 years. I think Carroll's becoming a bit of an issue in Seattle. I'm not necessarily enamored with his salesman pitch anymore.
Yeah,
I think that there's a concern there too, and like I'll go back to even the press conference after Atlanta and them trying to sell us this BS that this team was on the right track and trying to say it. Like there are problems, and I would wish that this coach was a bit more honest about that. So, fair comment.
Fair enough.
Okay. Let's go to probably the most interesting team in the division, the LA Rams. The LA Rams have a new head coach, Sean McVay, and their ownership has basically forced this man to make Jared Goff a good quarterback, and they've basically put all their chips on the table for Jared Goff to be good. They're changing their offense to what's going to be a quasi-like spread offense that he used to run in college. They brought in Sammy Watkins with a huge trade. They have Todd Gurley there. They drafted a tight end. They drafted Cooper Kupp, who looks pretty good, actually. They have Tavon Austin. They brought in Robert Woods. They really like the Bills receivers. I don't know why. They have an okay defense that I think maybe lost a couple pieces, but still has a lot of talent there. And again, Sean McVay, who was coaching one of the best offenses for the last couple of years. So, the Rams. What do I think about the Rams? I think if they had a better quarterback, this is a team that I've been saying for probably like 4 years now. The Rams had a better quarterback. That's like how you start every conversation about the Rams. They could be a borderline / playoff team, but because they have Jared Goff, who I don't think is very good, and I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I don't think he's going to be even mediocre. He's going to be somewhere in the bottom 5 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's going to keep the Rams from, I'll say they win 6 games because I'm impressed with the talent they have in their skill positions. They have Sammy Watkins, Todd Gurley. That's pretty good. They have defensively, still Aaron Donald, the best interior defensive player in the league. They have Robert Quinn. They have some good linebackers. They have Trumaine Johnson. They still have a lot of talent. It's just Jared Goff. And I just can't get them anywhere close to being competitive to the Cardinals or the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a 6-10 because they're going to, they're in the NFC West. And I don't know. I'll give them a couple wins there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm similar, but I'm going to go with what they just did because I think Goff cannot win you games. Watching him play, watching how the team, hopefully they use Gurley a bit better, because even with Goff when he played, like they still just stacked the box and gave Gurley no room.
They're supposed to make him more of like they're getting him more involved in the receiving game, and
that because he still can do that, but still, the way you're talking is a little bit how I kind of feel with. We'll get to the 49ers, but I think the 49ers win 6 games.
Okay.
And are 6-10, but I'm going to go with the same record as the Rams had last year at 4-12. Because Goff, there's still some, this defensive line should play a lot better than it does if you think about it, in my opinion. Like they
Connor
switched to
Barwin
now
defense. That's something that we should actually say.
So they brought in Connor Barwin, and now what? Robert Quinn is playing weak side linebacker.
He's playing outside linebacker, yeah.
Okay. I do like Truman Johnson, actually. I think Truman Johnson's one of the most underrated corners in the league.
Well, they have at safety, like Joyner and
Davis and Mo Alexander, who actually I saw Mo Alexander play a bit. And then they got Nickel Robbie Coleman from Buffalo, who's not horrible, but still, I still just think they're going to be the same. They're in a tough division. Like, even if you look at their schedule, like, when I'm just looking at it here, it's like maybe they still steal one against the Colts, maybe against the Jaguars they win. That's 2. They get 2 from the 49ers. Yeah, so I just still think 4. I'll go 4-12, but I could see them winning 5, and I also could see them just winning 3. So I'll go 4-12 and just another rebuild. But it sucks because they gave up a first-round pick, so it doesn't matter, right? They won't even if they do shitty, they're not going to get that pick back. Was it? Did they? Or do they have?
They gave up a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, for Sammy. For Sammy,
no,
they gave up their corner, EJ Gaines.
No, I think the Goff one.
The
Goff one, the second next year.
The Goff, there's some picks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly, but
I'm gonna go 5. I think the one. I think they got good coaching. I think I like McVay. Wade Phillips always brings.
Yeah, that's another thing. Wade Phillips. That's what I think.
But I would be like, if this was a team that was going to go in a conservative route and run the ball a little bit more, but they're trying to spread the spread with a guy that he's not ready. He's not there. He hasn't shown it yet. McVay may be a genius, but Goff is just not it. So I've got him at 5 wins. I wanted throughout the offseason, I really wanted to believe that they would be better, and 1 and 2 teams that will in this that I really wanted to believe would be better, and I'm a little sad that they're not. So
okay, well, the way I look at the Rams, why I have them 6 wins is I just think they have too much talent. That's basically what I said. Like, they have too much talent outside of Jared Goff compared to the 49ers, which is the next team we're going to talk about. 49ers, yes, I love Kyle Shanahan, biggest Kyle Shanahan supporter there is. But this guy just doesn't have enough talent to do much damage this season. I think they're going to finish with 4 wins. So I just basically flip-flop the Rams for probably you guys because I just think the Rams have so much more talent offensively, defensively. 49ers, I mean, I like the additions they made. The Juszczyk signing was nice from Baltimore, but he's a fullback. The receiver, Pierre Garçon, was a good signing. He had his best season of his career in a Kyle Shanahan offense. I think he'll have a really sneaky year. Brian Hoyer, I think, has played a lot better than a lot of people think. Their running back, Carlos Hyde, is going to have a very good year in this zone scheme. Their defense, though, I mean, they don't have much of a secondary. Their D-line is pretty good and pretty young, but outside of that, they have a couple linebackers. They have a couple players that a lot of people are high on, like out of the draft, Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster. Those guys, a lot of people I think a lot of people, they'll make a bigger impact than – I think they'll be probably maybe even the 2 best players on their defense, but I don't think they're enough to really take this team to past like 4 wins, to be honest with you, because I just look at this team, not enough talent. When you look at the Rams, they have talent all over their roster. Even if they have Jared Goff, I don't know. I love the 49ers for the future, and I said they'll win the division in 3 years, but not yet.
Yeah, I'll go 6-10. I don't mind this defense. Well, I don't mind their front 7, but they're going to get eaten alive if they want to bring pressure. Because like that linebacking crew, a bit older, but Reuben Foster, Bowman, Brooks, Doomerville. That's not horrible.
No,
And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then Solomon Thomas, we'll see what he can do from the inside there. Buckner is still jury's out a bit. Eric Armstead, I don't think's that bad. Earl Mitchell, but yeah, if you look at their secondary, right, Dante Johnson, I don't mind their offensive line. And then Brian Hoyer, it's going to be Shanahan's system. And we've seen Brian Hoyer play, and it's not like a new team. But when your two go-to receivers are Pierre Garçon and Marquise Goodwin, although decent, you don't have a number one.
Is Jeremy Curley still there? Because he was their best receiver last year.
Yes, he is. He's the fourth on here because they have.
So when I look at this offense, I think Goodwin's going to be kind of like the Gabriel.
Yeah.
And Curley will be kind of the second, more of the second, and Garçon will be the first. That's kind of my guess.
They have this guy that they like that's actually starting outside, Aaron Burbridge from Michigan State, that they got in the 6th round last year. So obviously a Chip Kelly draft pick. Vance McDonald, you just never. He's more of a blocking, but he still can catch. But they actually have some running back depth. Carlos Hyde, yes, is obviously their number one guy, but a lot of people are high on Joseph. A lot of people are high on Joseph Williams, their pick, the running back from Utah, who was a kind of a top 5 running back in the draft they got in the 4th round. So look for him maybe to get some playing time. But I'm going to go 6-10 because I do think they're better than the Rams. Maybe not on paper. I just feel like I still take Brian Hoyer over Goff right now for some reason.
I do, but I take the team of the Rams over the team.
No, true. But I'll just flip the same as you, but just opposite, and then I'm gonna go I'm gonna go 6-10 for the 49ers, and a bit better. Actually, that's 4 wins better than last season, but I think they're gonna squeak out a couple during the season.
There is no team this team has absolutely no pressure on them to do anything. The reality is they probably could go. They have the ability, seriously, to go 0-16. I'm even debating now, but I could see them winning 7. I just think that there's no pressure on this team. This team will be as loose as they've been in a long time. They don't have Chip Kelly or Tom Sula. They don't have drama in their background anymore. They can play football. And the 49ers, when they play football, are great. When there's no distractions, there's no drama. When the 49ers play 49ers football, they are a good team to watch. I can see them win. I'm going to say 7 games. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say 7 games just because there's no pressure on this team. There really isn't.
If Brian Hoyer stays healthy, then and he plays well, maybe.
Like even just plays the West Coast, like just doesn't turn the ball over.
I think Brian Hoyer, when he plays well, mostly.
Yeah.
Like he's not great, but like when you looked at him last year for the Bears, he was good. Like he was throwing for 300 yards a game. And with Kyle Shanahan, he played for the Browns, and that was like his best time of his career. So, I mean.
And you know what? If things do go south in the quarterback, look for CJ Beathard to get the quarterback out of Iowa that they drafted in the 3rd round, third round. Look for him to get some playing time because obviously Barkley is going to be on a short leash if Hoyer does go down for some reason.
Yeah. So
and John Lynch is. I know that people are mocked that decision.
He's done a really good job.
He's done a really good job there. He really has, and he knows his football, and he has Super Bowl pedigree, and there's Super Bowl pedigree on this 49er team. So I don't sleep on the 49ers is my point.